If you're ready to truly transform your organization from human to augmented human, there are three fundamental problems you need to solve. The first one is the ability to plan, and primarily, or at least initially, this looks like identifying viable use cases that can quickly and inexpensively be integrated into your team in order to make a huge impact. The second problem you need to solve is related to execution. That is taking these use cases that you have identified and, first of all, developing them into a form that you can quickly and inexpensively develop and make available to your team. And then the second component of execution is actually making it available and getting your team actually using it. And once you've got them using it, of course, the third problem you need to solve is one of measurement. You have to be able to quickly and ideally in real time know who is using AI, who is not, which department has transformed the most, which has transformed the least. How much has AI truly cost you at a project level or task level or iteration level? How much productivity impact has there truly been at all these different levels per business unit or per user? This type of visibility is extremely important in the transformation process so that you can make adjustments as you go. So plan, execute, and measure. Water helps do all three. Let's dive into the platform and I'll show you how it works. First thing I'm going to point out is that every company on the platform gets their own collection of template projects, which can be expanded. And a template project is like a template collection of tasks that are related to a project. So for example, you can see here we've got a project called template branding, which a marketing department might have. And we're just going to go take a look at the tasks. So inside here, there's 2 template tasks. And if we go look inside the design logo, we call this a repetitive execution plan. You don't have to call it that. That's what we call it internally here. And if we come down here to the execution plan, this essentially is the instruction set. Now, I'm going to point out right now is that this is where you're going to put your SOP, your standard operating procedure for this type of a task. So if you're trying to figure out, can I automate this particular task, which I know is repetitive, I know it's high value, it would be great if we could automate that. This is how you begin the analysis process. You take your SOPs or your training documents that you've got for your new employees, your step-by-step sequence documents that says, hey, new person, if you're going to do this particular task, here's the 5 or 6 steps that you're going to follow in enough detail that I don't have to assign a mentor to you to hold your hand while you're doing this. And even if we do it with a mentor in round 1, I can give you this document and now you can use it as a cheat sheet until you've got it fully internalized. And so if you haven't done this in your organization, if you don't have those SOPs or the documented workflows or training documents, now's the time, because if you want to create a repeatable system that is scalable for your people, you need to be documented. Otherwise, you rely on mentoring all the time, and that's an inconsistent and time-consuming and expensive process. Documentation is far more reliable, consistent, and inexpensive comparatively. Well, it just so happens that the same instructions you would give to your humans, your new human employees, either for training or later for retraining, it's those exact same instructions that you would give to sidekicks. And that's how they've been engineered. They can take exactly the same instructions. So let me give you an example. In this case, starting here, this is what would normally be in a training document. This stuff, here's a tutorial, here's what you're going to do, here's an overview of the task. And now we come down to the magical part, which we refer to as the action item. An action item is a granular piece of work to be done by one person. Planning the task, filling out the logo questionnaire. In this case, that's to be done by the stakeholder, or I guess a client. Action 3, create the logos. This would be normally a designer. In this case, we're assigning a sidekick to do this work. Choose the logo. Of course, the stakeholder has to do this. See this documentation. It's hard to get it wrong when you've got a recipe like this laid out. Hard for your people to get it wrong, and impossible for a programmatic system like a sidekick to get it wrong. And you can see here we've got 7 action items in total laid out here. And what you're going to do is once you've taken your documentation or created your documentation and put it in here in the terms, in the form of an action item, a micro task to be completed by one person, you can now go through each one of those and decide, can this be easily automated? You might need help answering that question. And we decided in this particular case that probably the easiest thing to automate would be to create the logos, because our sidekicks are very good with branding, images, graphic design. They're amazing. They can create avatars, mascots, 3D product packaging right from scratch. They can do all of that out of the box and with no special training. And so we thought, well, this is a really good one. We can do this very easily. Let's just create some instructions here for, in this case, the sidekick. But all we did was we took the instructions that were being given to the human and we just reformatted it just a little bit so it's a nice ordered list, and we pasted it in here. And that's what you're going to do. You got a list of things. You go through and you decide what can be automated, what is easy, what is quick, what is inexpensive, what potentially is no risk. And with the help of some specialists, you'll be able to get that information so that there's really no chance of failure. Everything you do should succeed. I think about 99% of every sidekick automation that we attempt succeeds. And so there's no reason to take extraordinary risks or to see failure in your process. So now that you've got this, once you've got it assigned, you basically take the stuff, you put it into a template task, and you tell your team, okay, we've got this template task. When you've got a new, in this case, a new logo to develop or whatever the task might be, when you've got a new one, you just go into the template system, you copy it, and you reassign it to a new organization and assign the appropriate people. And that's all there is to it. So the training is basically telling the people to use the system to copy the templates, and that's it. You don't have to teach them how to talk to the other team members. The instructions are all there, and basically they're just talking in natural human language. So what you would do here, what the task manager would do is they'd come up here to actions and they would copy the task, and they can just as easily copy an entire template project. So you might have, we've got projects that have 20 and 30 tasks in them, and each task has 5 and 10 and 15 action items. So it can be very, very complex if you want them to be or need them to be. So you can just copy it and then reassign it. I've already copied this one. I'll just show you the copy that I made. And the reason I'm showing you this is because I customize this just a little bit. Normally when you're doing a logo or any kind of branding, you know, there's elaborate brand guides and things like that you would normally need. I wanted to dumb this down and make it simple for the demo. So here's the steps. Create the subfolder called Draft Logos for Review. Put it under the current task folder. Every task gets an assigned folder, whether that's Dropbox or Google Drive or whatever. And that's where your sidekick is trained to place files. So create a subfolder. Go ahead and create 5 logos for this company using their website as a guide. Now I just chose this randomly. We don't know these people, but we chose it, and we thought they have a fairly basic logo now. So their style is obviously fairly simplistic, which isn't a bad thing. And basically we're telling the sidekick to use the website as a guide, and we also wanted to make sure their tagline was used. So our experience, your home, we just copied this and pasted in there as part of the instructions. So there's an example how task instructions can be customized. You can write them from scratch, of course. They don't have to be in a template. You can just write them up and delegate them, but you will get more reliable results if you've got them templated, because you'll have a chance to have tried it once or twice before you hand it over to the team. That's always best practice. Okay, well, let's go ahead and let's create an action item. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to scroll down to this section where I can create a new action item. I'm going to paste. There it is. This was the name of the task action, so I'm going to put that up there. The assignee is the sidekick. I don't need that in the instructions. I'll just pick the sidekick now, change the status to active, and that's it. When I create task action, it's going to delegate that work off to the sidekick. Off it goes. It'll now run in the background. Now we have a very strategic reason why we don't show the process You notice here there's not screens popping up and back-end, ongoing feedback from the sidekick. The reason we don't do it is because we've discovered that when you show that stuff, humans stop and watch because it is so fascinating. It is entertaining to watch the AI magically do this work in the background, and just an extraordinary amount of time is wasted sitting and watching. They might as well be watching a Netflix video because that's how entertaining it is. And so to avoid that, we're trying to make people productive. And so we obfuscate that for a reason. And if you really need people to see that, we could make an exception and maybe show it. But trust me, people are, when they're less distracted, they're more likely to move on to the next task. And the whole process is designed to help people move to the next task. And rather than waiting around, they now just move to the next one. They delegate more work. They move to the next one. They delegate more work. And what used to be a normal employee, not a manager, not a supervisor, just a normal employee, they really now take on a leadership role because they're responsible to plan, do some prioritization, really think it through, and then delegate the work. And then when the work comes back, they need to review it. And so everybody now is taking on more and more management roles. So everybody needs to get good at management from that point of view. And one of those things, one of those considerations of getting good is not waiting around. Don't wait around and watch. Don't get entertained. Don't get distracted. Just dive right in the next task, because in a day, you'll get 20, 30, 40% more things delegated if you follow that best practice. And so when it comes back with the work, and of course it depends on the workload that it's dealing with across the whole system, tasks typically can take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or sometimes only 30 seconds, depending if it's very simple. But in this case, of course, the sidekick is evaluating that entire website. Right? So it's doing research, it's processing, it's planning, it's thinking it through, and by the time it comes back, you can see this indicator here. It says 10. You'll see an indicator in the inbox when there's feedback from the sidekick. Now, if it happens to need more information, it'll just come back and it'll ask for information right away. Like, for example, if I forgot to put the website in here, it would come back and say, oh, you forgot to put the website. So it would act just like a normal human. And then you can, so as you can see here, these instructions are exactly what a designer would get normally before they do the work. And when it comes back, you'll see how it's taken all the back end work that is all, of course, mathematics and programmatic and so on. There's a lot of code magic and Python and machine learning, and all that is happening in the background. All of that is obfuscated to make the sidekick respond just like a human, talk to you just like a human, give feedback just like a human. And that's why there's no friction from human to sidekick. It's just like human to assistant. It's not human to some obscure tool, right? That they have to learn new systems and new processes. This is just very, very human-like, very easy to learn. Now, right out of the gate, sidekicks have tremendous capabilities. They have a lot of custom marketing skills, social media, SEO, content marketing, graphic design, and social media, and so on. And then they can do a lot of they have a lot of skills related to administration and document manipulation, document creation. But there will come a time when you want to move beyond the marketing department and automate your legal department, your finance department, your HR department, your production pipeline. And when it comes to that, you'll have a lot of very sensitive data that you might not want to be disclosing to random AI tools that your employees might be using. And this is a perfect platform for that, because you can isolate your data by creating your automations in platforms like Google's Agent Development Kit, or using Microsoft Copilot, or even N8N or Make.com, and so on. If you create them there, your agents and workflows in these platforms, you can be certain that your data is secure, because there's nobody getting access to it other than you. And then once you've got these workflows created, let me show you how easy it is to integrate them into the water system. So any workflow you create, any agent you create, essentially becomes a skill that can be assigned to a sidekick. And let me show you the process. So let's just go over here to integrations. And we'll come down here to add agent. I'm going to click this button, and this is where you're going to add your external agents that you create in your own platform. So you don't have to create these, but if you want to create them, for example, here's your A to A. You would enter the details here with whatever authentication you want to use. Here's your APIs and webhooks. That's where you would basically do everything else, such as Copilot or Make.com or Zapier, Active Pages, and so on. And then you've got MCP as well. Once you've entered the details, just save it. It'll be added as a skill. And now that it's added as a skill, nobody has access to it yet. Now you go to the next step and selectively delegate those skills to individual people that you want to have that. So for example, if you have a payroll skill, you probably won't want everybody getting access to that. So you want to very selectively delegate it. So you do that through, I'm going to come over here to my Sidekick profile. And you can see here, you can customize the personality traits and so on of your Sidekick. And down here is where you're going to customize the skills. You'll see that some skills have $0 a month. So the skills that we make available, quite a few, they don't cost anything to assign. But if you've got some specialty skill, there are cases where there's a specialty skill that's been created and it'll cost $1 a month to assign it to somebody, to assign it to a Sidekick. And you can see what the skill is capable of by clicking this. You can see that in the Google Drive skill, they can download files, list, create, copy, move them around. This is tremendously helpful. I don't know if you've ever used cloud-based file systems before. If you've got to move files around from one location away over here to one location over to another location, it can be very clunky and clumsy and time-consuming for the human to go through that process. You can just delegate that to your Sidekick. You can say, hey, I've got this subfolder, here's the URL or the location, move it over here to this new location, and just like that, it takes care of it. Very, very handy. So here's where your new skills will show up. You can disconnect skills as you will. You can add new skills. And when you add them, you just click save, and that's it. The user's Sidekick, let me show you that. We're to users and the Sidekick list. So you have a complete access to anybody's Sidekick in the system. You can open it up and go and start adding things. You can click add articles, add social media, and save it. And now that user will have access to that. So if you've got something very, very sensitive like payroll and so on, only the correct people are ever going to, excuse me, get access to that. And the inbox light just lit up. So let's head over to the inbox. And here's the Sidekick reporting back. And by the way, this is how any human user would report back. Messages flow into the inbox, and we'll open that up. And it says the task of creating, organizing logos has been completed. You can access all the logos using this link. Again, just like a human would report back, despite the fact that in behind the scenes, there's a lot of very programmatic things going on. This Sidekick just responds in a very human-like feel. So we'll click this link, and there's the folder that it created that we asked it to create. Draft logos for review. It organized them. Imagine you're doing this at scale. Imagine it wasn't 5 logos, but 50 social media posts or 300 articles. You can run this at scale, and it's one of the few platforms that can do that, and it can organize everything day by day, week by week. For example, if you've got 5 posts you want to make per day, it'll organize, it'll say, well, here's your September, here's the 31 days, and here's a folder for every one of those posts. So very well organized and very easy to keep track of. So let's take a look at these logos that were generated, and you'll see right away that they are indeed production grade quality. And there's this one here. Again, they got it. They're getting it right though. Our experience, your home. I did specify that, and it's using. Looks like it's using the information right off the website. Okay, all of these are good. This particular skill is being used today in production by a marketing agency, and they're delivering logos and social media and packaging and all that, and clients are liking it. So all in all, very good. Now, let me show you some other magic. So now what we're going to do is we're going to see how much did that cost and how much time did it save. So we go up here to this little icon, and we're going to click this. And right here, you can see that it cost 94 cents to develop 5 logos. Well, that's about 19 cents per logo-ish. You can see an estimate on human time saved. We use a proprietary algorithm to estimate human time saved. That isn't just mathematics, it's also human reviewed, and or the algorithm is to tune it, and also delivery time saved, because you haven't just saved the amount of human time in order to do the work, you also saved all the time in delivery. So in a team environment, when you delegate work to a team member, often they won't even see that inbox message for a while. It might be 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever it is. If you send the message at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they might not see it till the next morning. And so there's lag time in them even seeing the message. Then there's additional lag time in them getting started on the task, because they might have 3 or 4 other tasks they're already working on, and yours goes into a queue. And finally, of course, if the task gets started at 4 in the afternoon, of course, 5 logos aren't going to be completed by 5 by quitting time. And so now you've got overnight. And if that overnight happens to be a Friday, well, now you go until Monday. And so you lose weekends, you lose overnights, and you lose lag times in starting, you lose lag times in communication delays. And all of those are part of the algorithm that estimates delivery time that is saved. So production cycle time is dramatically compressed. And by the time you automate even 10% of all the granular tasks that you could potentially automate, you haven't just added 10% to the overall productivity output. You've likely added 50% or 100% or 200%, because remember, every human minute today, a human can only produce 1 minute of productive output in that 1 minute of time that they invest. But when they're delegating work to a sidekick, 1 minute of human time might net you 100 minutes of productivity output. So 10% of automation in the organization might actually double overall productivity, just depending on the things that you automated first. So there we've seen an overview of how to plan using SOPs and workflow training tools. And for more insights on prioritization, I highly recommend the 15 steps of AI transformation, which you can find on our website. Once you've identified use cases and prioritized them, in the execution part, you develop what you need to develop, or you may not need to develop anything. You might be able to use the sidekicks for a tremendous amount of things out of the gate. But when you do need to develop custom automations in make.com or N8N or Copilot or the like, you would integrate it into the system by adding it as a skill and then assigning the skill to individual sidekicks. Very secure. And then, of course, you get immediate proof of value, not just at the iteration level, like what we did with the logos was, I would consider that one iteration. You might want to do five more logos, which would be a second iteration. The point being that you get the insights into costs and human time saved and production time saved at the iteration level, at the task level, at the project level, at the organization level, and even above that at the entire company level. So lots of little levels. And then, of course, you can do that by division, by department, by region, by business unit, and by user, so to get a tremendous amount of insight. And so planning, execution, and measurement can all be done inside the Water platform to accelerate an organization's transformation.